All right, everybody, welcome back. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Heath Pearce, and this is the Qué Golazo U.S. Men's National Team Hour. It's a weekly YouTube show. We do it live. We're for roughly 1 hour. Sometimes we go to 90 minutes, which makes a lot of sense since we're talking about the beautiful game. We obsess about the U.S. Men's National Team and all the ripple effects that extends to, whether it's MLS, whether it's Americans in the Champions League, whatever Americans are playing, we're going to talk about it and everything else surrounding it. And obviously they have a big game this particular weekend. And I don't know if there's going to be a January camp or not. We don't know if we've got any confirmation on that. We should figure that out, Heath Pearce. But they got a big friendly on Saturday against Bosnia and Herzegovina. And there's going to be 11 first-timers who have never actually been in a camp before out of the 26 that got called in. Now, before we get into this conversation, into the preview, we wanted to say we want to welcome everyone to the show. If you're watching live, do your part to spread this video far and wide by simply hitting like and subscribe, leaving a comment, letting us know where you're from and who you support. Always a good way to get introduced into the community. And then to be a part of this conversation, there's always a live chat. And we want to see you in there with your observations, questions, grievances, or whatever else you need to get off your chest. Okay? But let's keep things civil. That's all we ask. You know, we still want to show that there's a world out there where people can be respectful, even if they disagree on certain opinions. So Heath Pearce, this will be the last of 22 games that the U.S. Men's National Team has played in 2021. That's a lot of goddamn games.
Yeah, man, I would love those bonuses. That's a pretty good run of games.
That's true.
If you're somebody that's gotten to play most of them. Kellen Acosta.
Now, only 4 of them have been against non-CONCACAF opposition. Northern Ireland, Switzerland, and Qatar, who they played in the Gold Cup. Now, what are your thoughts on the standard of the opposition, and which national teams would you like the U.S. Men's National Team to measure up against in 2022 ahead of the World Cup to help us get fine-tuned for that big competition, assuming we qualify? I have to add that disclaimer because we didn't do it in 2018. I'm still bitter about it.
Well, I think there's a few things there, right? I think it's actually come to help us only being able to get CONCACAF teams to play against us, right? We are still in the world of COVID and travel and things like that. And granted, we've also had over this last year 2 competitions that we had to play in. Granted, one of them was a semifinal and final, but you had the Gold Cup as well, and where you played against Qatar, who was a very different style of play, and one that you're going to play against when you see the likes of, not to put Qatar and Spain in the same category, but the Xavi connection. You can see that the style of play that they had was very different, possession-minded, where I think the U.S. actually was kind of punched in the face a little bit about these teams that, like, oh wow, they can break pressure with passing. They see the game differently. There's a cool and collective nature to them. I think the U.S. needs to play some more of those. Now, I think it also is an advantage, as I mentioned, that they've played against these CONCACAF teams because it's only further helped, right? You play Honduras in a semifinal. Great. That helps us play Honduras in the future. You play Mexico in 2 finals. That helps us in the future. You're playing against Costa Rica. You're playing against all these teams that only better prepare you under different circumstances and different levels of pressure for the teams you're having to play against to qualify for a World Cup. So I think that helps. Now, does it help test us and see where we're at against other teams? We've got Northern Ireland. We've got who else was there in that?
Well, Switzerland. Let me say this: FIFA rankings, we're currently ranked 12th.
Yep.
Switzerland are 13th. Mexico's 14th. Listen, I was part of the team ahead of the World Cup in 2006. It was the 3rd ranked country in the world. I know these things are a bit inflated. Let's just take it for what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad the U.S. is above Mexico. Let's just end it there. Switzerland 13th. Now, when I look for Northern Ireland, I don't see them for a while. They're not on the first page, not the top 50.
They're playing in Conifa.
They're the 54th ranked team, and Qatar is 51st.
Yeah. Look, I would love them to play against more diverse teams. Now, whether they're in the top 10 or 20, I don't necessarily think that's going to be the indicator. Anybody top 40, I think, is going to be a different type of team. I think the U.S. should make sure that they have an African team. And when I say African, that's all encompassing, which isn't the right thing to do because your North African style of play are going to be much more technical. Yes. The game in South or West or whatever, there's different styles of play in every country of course. In Africa. But I'd like to see somebody from that region based on the fact that you might get one in a World Cup. I think you can prepare for, I think the way that some of the North African teams will play similar to some of the South American teams. It's a little more tiki-taki. It's a lot more kind of beautiful football-esque. And so a more diverse skill sets that are going to prepare you for teams that are going to play you differently in a World Cup. Because again, qualifying over, 14 games
Yeah.
14 games is very different than tournament play. Tournament play is completely different. How you get points on your first game might be different if you're faced up against Brazil. And then how you then manage the rest of your group and how that changes the dynamic of whether we're defensive or attacking or where we're vulnerable or where we take our chances. I think you need to play against other types of opponents that are also going to be playing you like a chessboard. And so while, again, I think playing CONCACAF teams helps, and it helps to qualify for a World Cup, it doesn't get us any closer to seeing how we match up with other teams. And I actually think our national team is very well equipped to play against other styles of play, especially European nations, when we have our best team on the field. Jimmy, I don't know what your thoughts are on that as well.
Well, no, so Derp's getting in there saying this is a Bosnia team that will also be kind of their C team, right? Because they have a lot of players, their top players playing in Europe or whatever it may be.
Yep.
Don't want to travel over to the U.S. I get all that. We're also not bringing an A team. We have probably a C team as well. So this will be a good competition for both sides as both coaching staffs evaluate that next layer of depth that could potentially push on or to validate why they should be considered for more minutes moving forward. With regard to who we want to play in 2022, listen, Ivory Coast got shocked in the Africa. I mean, it was between them or Cameroon. That's a really tough group anyway, but Cameroon ends up doing the business. I'd get Ivory Coast on the schedule as soon as humanly possible. Like, that would be a great team to play, especially if they brought all their eight. I'm talking like in the summer when the European leagues are done and we get those friendlies in. Go get Ivory Coast on the schedule. And then once all those other European teams fall out that don't qualify for the World Cup, get those bastards on the schedule as well. Or maybe if you can get some other World Cup qualifiers or participants, you get them on the schedule. But I actually would like to see, and I know, as you say, there's always a different style, sometimes within the same country, right? Of how you should play. And obviously the Catalans see the game different than the Madridistas, so I get all that. But it would be cool to get like a representative. Let's play somebody from South America, get somebody from Africa, get somebody from Europe. If we can get a Japan on the schedule, that would be awesome. So I hope we get a whole bunch of different styles. And I'd be really surprised if Gregg and the staff weren't thinking in that capacity. But Ivory Coast would be a tremendous game, I think, for us because they do have some styles. I think Cameroon, Nigeria, some of these teams play similarly to them. Not like for like, of course, but will give us some trouble and things to think about, assuming when the draw comes out. Now, obviously, this is still the disclaimer that we're going to qualify. We're obviously hopeful, and we're only a few games. If we win 3 or 4 more games, we should be set. We only 6 left, though. So if we win 3, I think we're all right. Yeah. But different conversation for now. I don't want to worry about it till we get closer to the next qualifying window. But yeah, it's interesting times. And I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out. But with regard to Bosnia, now let's get back onto this game in particular. Who do you want to see here? What are your expectations of this game? And I wish that we had more than one. We talked about it on the last U.S. Men's National Team Hour because we're bringing in so many players. To give, let's say, a Johnny Cardoso only 30 minutes feels a little unfair that we're going to evaluate a guy for only 30 minutes and be like, nah, you're not good enough,
Yeah, this is the issue that I'm running into, right, Jimmy, which is Gregg Berhalter has set out this year to get more experience to more players. We've seen him do that over 2021, right? You played in the Gold Cup with a different team than you played in the Nations League semifinal and final. You've rolled out 34 players in qualifying so far this year. You've seen a diverse group of players that when you come into these games, it's hard for me to think about a player who hasn't been seen yet. So for me, I'm like, let's see the players that we haven't seen. Because maybe, to go back to my Conrad comment, maybe there's a player that you're like, wow, isn't in the right circumstances or needs to move to a new club, or this player has something that I haven't seen before. And so when I'm thinking about building out that roster, yes, I know Matt Turner's in the team. Yes, I know Matt Turner doesn't have a lot of caps. But am I using a cap on him, or am I using a cap on Gabriel Slonina, who I want to bring in, who's 17 years old, dual national, that I want to see? What is it like in playing in a game? And again, a national team is a national team game. Yes, these games tend to be a little bit different, right? The January camp games at times were a little bit different. You played against other B teams or other alternative teams for players that were just domestic in those teams. And some countries had mostly domestic players. Some countries had mostly foreign players in terms of where they're applying their trade and whether they're available in a January camp. So when I think about that, I think about, again, going from Gabriel Slonina to the back line of players that haven't had a chance to play or show themselves. You've got Henry, you've got Henry Kessler, you've got Kobe Henry, you've got Jonathan Gomez, you've got a number of players that are in this. Kevin Paredes is another one. Brian Reynolds, who hasn't gotten time. You have a chance to see a lot of these guys, or you could just play Kellen Acosta in the midfield, or you can look at Jackson Ewell, who I don't think is an unknown target. But Cole
like
Bassett is one that hasn't been in that. I'm
sure,
like,
but do you feel like it makes sense to have 11 players we've never seen before? Or do you feel like there should be a blend of players that know what it means to line up with the team, that can hold these younger players accountable, to make sure they're moving in the right way, to make sure that I'm kind of curious as to the formation too, because we might be better set up in this particular, with the 26 players out there in a double pivot as opposed to the single, assuming, so do you want to stick kind of with what we want to move forward with as a group, or are you trying to play to the players that you have in front of you? I think that's one challenge. Yeah. The second one is, do you put some experience in the spine of your team? I'd like to see Slonina in goal as well. But if you do that, then I'd really like to have a Walker Zimmerman out there to kind of patrol things. But I also agree with you. I don't want to take minutes away from some of the other guys. Now, I could see this being a bit of a split squad. We could see 11 players do the first half and another 11 players do the second half, which feels kind of crappy because it's harder to establish a rhythm sometimes. Yeah. But that might be the best way for Gregg to solve a little bit of these problems, because I want to see a Justin Che. I want to see guys that maybe haven't necessarily lit up MLS or their particular clubs, but as you and I both know, sometimes players play different for the national team and do rise to the occasion. I think you and I are probably good examples of that. So who's this, how do you know until you know? And you got to give them some minutes to see.
Well, there's 12 players in this group that have 0 caps in the national team. And so I do agree. I also, it's hard because, on one hand, if you're Matt Turner, you're like, dude, I want another start. Like, why am I not getting the start? And so I could see there being a half and a half. But, in terms of judgment, I'm looking at that saying, well, you need a Walker Zimmerman, because with Walker Zimmerman, you have a calming presence, which is actually going to allow the players you want to test on the field to play better, to relax, to know that they have some confidence around them, some experience around them. Somebody's going to do their job of making it easier. Jimmy, when I became a center back, I took what I liked from my center backs as a left fullback that allowed me to cheat at times and allowed me to get in good spots and sort of see the game and make their job easier, right? I try to apply those things. Now, if you have a Walker Zimmerman, he can do that having the experience that he has. So I do think up your spine, you want to have some of those players. Now, where you get into the midfield, that's where it gets a little bit trickier because Kellen Acosta or Christian Roldan, sure, you could play with both of them, but there's also an argument for Johnny Cardozo or Cole Bassett. And I don't want to see those guys get bit part minutes. Now, having said that, Gregg Berhalter is getting a pretty good sample size over a couple weeks, and training is just training. Some guys are pure gamers. We've seen that, guys that are not great in training. But very rarely in the national team do you have guys that go, oh, he's bad constantly, right? Like there's a certain level when you get to it that it's usually the game is fast enough where you don't have guys that are just having shockers or don't show up or, when you turn over, there is just a constant, just the demand mentally of a training session for the national team, regardless of it's your A, B, or C team, is so much higher than at a club team that guys usually get found out and have to step up. You don't get to have days off. So, but I do think Gregg's going to have an idea of okay, I've seen video of these. My scouts have seen videos. I brought these guys in. I'm seeing what I want to see. Now, these 2-3 players, I like what I see. Other ones, I'm like, okay, it's what I thought it was going to be. I mean, do you feel differently on that?
No, I don't feel different. I think that he's going to split the squad. The more that we talk about it, the more that I think it through. I think you're going to have 11 start the first half and another 11 start the second, or at least a big sea change, a line change, as you call it in hockey. And you're going to. And that's going to be that
so hard to get a rhythm after that.
I understand that.
All the friendlies that Gregg Berhalter has done when he rotates all those players, you're like, oh, I guess I'll go do something else now because the rhythm of this game is gone. And obviously he's trying to get as much experience and also exposure for these guys. But
I don't know. Well, before we get into what I think our starting lineup should be, and of course yours, Heath, as well, I have to let everybody know that the biggest events of the NWSL offseason are happening this week with the NWSL expansion draft and the NWSL College Draft. The expansion draft welcomes 2 brand new clubs to the league, and coverage kicks off on Thursday, December 16th at 7 p.m. with the full 2-hour event airing on CBS Sports HQ, the CBS Sports Network, Twitch, YouTube, and Paramount+. The NWSL College Draft is just 2 days later on Saturday, December 18th, starting at 2 p.m. with live coverage on CBS Sports HQ. And make sure, and you have to do this for us, you got to promise and pinky swear, make sure you listen to Attacking Third with Sandra Herrera and our very own producer, Lisa Roman, for full NWSL draft previews with guest experts and live draft recaps following the coverage on CBS Sports HQ. Find Attacking Third on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or watch on youtube.com/Attacking Third. Do it. It is awesome. It is well worth your time, and it would give some much needed love and respect and admiration to the women's game in this country.
Hey, I've got 2 of those teams coming to Southern California, Jimmy. Who do you have in the Bay Area? Actually, I did hear rumors that
I'm an LA native, dude.
And I'm
We're flip-flop.
NWSL
Just
team.
because you live in LA now, you can't claim it, dude. You're from Modesto.
Well, you can't claim
I'm from
San
LA.
Jose then. You can't claim San Jose to being a legend. If you must be a legend in one place only, Jimmy. You know, in
Kansas City's where I'm a legend, buddy.
Okay.
On the playing field. But I'll say that I was born and raised in LA. I can claim Angel City, okay. Or the San Diego Wave. But I'm gonna go with Angel City. That's my squad. Kristen Press.
All right, then I'll hold off on my fandom then until the Bay Area gets an NWSL team, because I did hear we're about a year or two out from that.
It's gonna happen.
Central Valley. We heard the Central Valley, which ended up being San Diego when they took the MLS team from there and went to San Diego to put in an NWSL team.
That's
a conversation for another day.
It's just a matter of time. Well,
I guess I'll hold off on my loyalty.
Well, we can pass the baton to that conversation over to Sandra and Lisa, who can handle it. Over the
I would love for Sandra or Lisa to tell me who I should be supporting, or if I should hold off. Should I go with the LA team because I live here now, or should I hold off on their
you're going to
Northern
Angel City.
California
I'm going to see you and your girls at the game wearing all the merch. I already know what's happening. Don't even try to pretend you're going to follow any other team. All right, getting back to the U.S. men's national team against Bosnia and Herzegovina this weekend, December 18th on Saturday. What do you think Gregg Berhalter is looking for from this game, knowing the challenges that we've already discussed of having so many players and trying to see them in valuable moments?
God, it's so hard, Jimmy. I mean, 22 games this year. There's not, when I think about like, what does Gregg Berhalter gain from giving Kellen Acosta another game? And I don't say giving, because that's the wrong way, of Kellen Acosta earning another game. What do we gain as fans? What does Gregg gain in terms of that, other than potential stability, more experience on the field? But I think you can get that from maybe you have Christian Roldan or Kellen Acosta be one of your two midfielders. Then you have Walker Zimmerman in your back line. And then the rest is up for grabs. I don't think, maybe you want to keep George Bello fresh. Maybe there's a conversation of saying, hey, we've got the scouts wanting one last look at an international level for George Bello before he gets sold abroad. They want to have one more little taste of that. Maybe there's a little of a conversation there happening. Not to say that that's what the national team's coach's job is to do, but if there's a better opportunity out there, you kind of want to assist those players in their journey. And if you can do that, but Justin Che is one that I thought had some good games this year. Jonathan Gomez, gosh, it's so hard to build this back line. Do you want to start off, Jimmy? Because I'm playing Gabriel Slanina, and I'm too deep in this where I want to see all these new players to be like, we've been so addicted to new players over the last 2 years and we've seen them work out and pan out and shape literally our national team of players in the last 18 months. We've seen more players come in than ever before in terms of like not just getting a look, but actually establishing themselves and pushing out the old generation, which I hate, but I love to see at the same time. I don't know where to start because I always want to see I'm addicted to the next player coming in and arriving and forcing or challenging for a spot in the national team. Okay, so I just want to state that when's the last time Ricardo Pepi? The last time Ricardo Pepi scored in MLS was September 13th. That is exactly 3 months ago. And he's had one goal in those 3 months. And that was against Sporting Kansas City in a 3-1 loss. I want to see him start because I want him to get his mojo back. I want him to start hitting the back of the net. And I think that could potentially happen against a Bosnia team that isn't their A squad. I want to see Jordan Morris get back out there because I want to see how he's going to fit in and can he make the most of his most likely 45 minutes and really have an impact on the game. I see what you did, Jimmy. Starting at the top line. I am. That. It's easier than the back line. I want to see Cade Cowell. There's some part of me that likes Cade Cowell in the 9 spot, but it seems like he's destined to play the wing currently. Jordan Morris, he's a power player. He is a power player. He is. He's a big guy like Jordan as well. So Cade Cowell on one side, Morris on the other, Ricardo Pepi up top. I want to see potentially like maybe a double 10 in some ways, even though I know that Greg likes to play inverted wingers. But when you have Morris and Cade Cowell, I feel like they got to be more traditional. Maybe they'll go inside out. We'll see. But some kind of variation of I'd love to see Caden Clark get a run out. I know that he had that appendectomy early in the season or during the season, and that really kind of slowed him down after building on a great 2020, which got so much interest. RB Leipzig paid for him. I think there was some pressure there. He couldn't get back into the team for the Red Bulls. And I want to see him maybe get some minutes here. I don't know if he'll start. Maybe Cole Bassett will get the start. Jesus Ferreira could be another one. And then as much as I'd like to see somebody other than Acosta, and I know what Jackson Yule can bring to the table, I'd like to see Johnny Cardoso. Like if we're going to really bring him in, I want to see him play. Whether he starts or not, I don't know. But I want to see at least 45 minutes from him. Out wide, I don't need to see George Bello. I know what he can bring to the table. I'd like to either see Jonathan Gomez if he's available. There is rumors that he might be leaving to go join Real Sociedad. So I don't know if he's available. That's the latest news I know. Maybe you know something different. I wouldn't mind seeing Kevin Paredes. I think he's got a bright upside, and I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think it'll be Aaron Long, depending on his fitness, and Walker Zimmerman.
Gregg is very high on Aaron Long, but it would be cool to see Kobe Henry or Henry Kessler. I think we'll see those guys. Aaron Trusty. Brian Reynolds, I think, is the guy you have to give a shot at right back. And then I would go with Slonina in goal, to be honest. Maybe Matt Turner starts and Slonina gets the second half. But Justin Shea in the second half. I don't know. What do you guys think that are listening? Hit us up at Qué Golazo Pod on the Twitter or right now in the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, the thing about I've always seen Kevin Paredes as a winger also. He's pretty nasty on the ball. Now, maybe there is a thought or a little bit of a subtle move that they placed him as a defender on this team or on this roster. I don't know. Maybe it's a typo, but it just seems like there's something strategic. Yeah,
he should have been in the middle. Like, there's like no midfielders, and Paredes should be in the midfield crew for sure.
And so I'm wondering how that was. But he was when I've seen him on the ball, he actually had there was a lot of people arguing that Kevin Paredes should have been the young player of the year because of his stats versus Ricardo Pepi, not for U.S. Soccer, but for Major League Soccer as the young player of the year, just because of the stats that he put up as an 18-year-old as well. I mean, look at this team that we're putting out, though. You got Caden Clark. You've got, if we put it out, Ricardo Pepi. You've got Cade Cowell, and you've got Kevin Paredes, all young star attacking players. Now, for me, I'm not going to talk about them because people have heard of them. I want to see these types of young players step up as defenders. Jimmy, I've yet to see a young player become a young, I don't know, like the maturity you see the confidence of an attacking player seems different when you're 18 than a defensive player that owns a back line or is defensively sound but amazing on the ball. Could Kevin Paredes be that guy if he embraced defending? Maybe, but I would love to see that type of development. But I've yet to see that for the U.S. in a while. Obviously, Serginho Dest being a good example. But when was the last time you saw a defender come through and you go, okay, Robinson maybe? I mean, but at the teenage year, step into the national team and just be like, oh, that guy deserves to be here. I mean, Matt Miazga was one that came through when he was just at the Red Bulls before he went to the Chelsea loan system. I don't know. That's what I want to see is like that development of those players too. And I know, we've got a crazy amount of good attackers. But
so maybe Paredes comes in for Jordan Morris in the second half. You have Jonathan Gomez playing the left back spot. I bet Acosta starts. I could see Matt Turner, Long, Zimmerman, that kind of spine of the team, especially in that area of the field, starting. And that way everything else is organized. Yeah. And then everybody else is super young. Obviously, Ricardo Pepi would be an experienced player. Jordan Morris, experienced player as well. And then Jesus Ferreira obviously had a couple meaningful appearances for us there at the very end, getting called into some important camps. So in that spine of the team, you've got some experience, and then you start to put out your young players or people coming back from injury everywhere else, and then you rotate those. It'd be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a good experiment. So let me say it like this, Heath, and I know we're going to tie up here the U.S. men's national team hour. We're into extra time right now for this. We're in injury time. But who are the three players, and everybody else listening to watching, who are the three players that you really want to see? Or maybe it's an important, very important game for them that could be somewhat make or break. And I'm kind of looking at Jordan Morris and or Aaron Long, who are coming back from significant injuries, getting into the team. It could be one of the younger players they're all excited about, Jonathan Gomez, Paredes, Cardoso, we haven't really seen much of, Cowell, Caden Clark. I mean, who are the players that you really think they can take advantage of this? Or I don't know. You can characterize these three any way you want, but what are you thinking?
Yeah. So I'm going to put it, I'm not going to go with the experienced players like an Aaron Long or Jordan Morris because of the fact that I think that if they are good enough at their team, they've got enough experience to just be called in, right? To a training camp. I think they have the shortest path to getting into the first team. What I want to see, if I were to take three players, Cade Cowell is one, just because I want to see, can he, I mean, if he that guy is a monster and,
he's a monster.
He has the potential to be. He's
a grown ass man, dude. When I see him, like, you are a grown ass man.
Oh, he's from Modesto. He's from Ceres, literally the town over. This is country bred kid right here, dude. This is the kid that we talked about. If you grew up in my hometown, which is where he's from, this kid would have been on everybody's watch list for NFL, not NFL, but college scholarships for football, for basketball. Everybody of the main schools would have been going after him because of the type of athlete that he is. But here he is now signing a contract when he's a teenager and actually fulfilling that in terms of his potential. So he's one that I want to see, not just because of where he's from. And Kevin Paredes is another one that I want to see in terms of having a performance of somebody that I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's a gamer and this guy's fearless and he can go after you and he'll beat you in every which way when he's on the ball. And then I'm kind of torn between my third one being Caden Clark, and Slanina. So Slanina is the one that's like kind of like it's Caden Clark, Jesus Ferreira, and Slanina, where I'm just like one of them. I'd like to see Jesus Ferreira take the fact that he's been called into the first team now, bring it back here and be like, yo, this is my spot. And none of you punk kids without the experience that I have been there before. And I'm going to own this with the confidence that I think he can, or what we saw at least last season, less so this season in Major League Soccer. So that's the one for me. And then obviously, I'm not going to pick
fourth
more,
here?
but no, not a fourth, but I want to find a sleeper, give me a sleeper of somebody, whether it's Bobby Henry, Jonathan Gomez, somebody like that, Henry Kessler, somebody that's like, oh yeah, like somebody that's in their hotel room right now, meditating, like manifesting that they've waited their whole life for this moment. And we're going to see some sort of springboard that we've never seen before. Rarely happens, but that would make me happy. What about you? What are your three?
No, I've seen Cowell play plenty with the San Jose Earthquakes because I'm in the Bay Area now, so I have a good idea what he's about. Obviously, I'd like to see him get minutes and see how he performs for the U.S. It's different when you wear the U.S. jersey. I'd like to see a little bit of Cole Bassett, frankly, and Caden Clark. I know what Pepi and Morris can do. I want to Paredes. I know I'm naming a bunch here.
You get three, Jimmy. You just named like 11.
I'll name three. Caden Clark.
Okay.
I have an interest in Taylor Booth.
But for Caden Clark, is it literally because you want to see him play at the international level? Because he was really good with the 20s, or is it like I want to see if Caden Clark can get to the first team now?
It's to your point. He has, for me, that ambition to want to keep pushing. Like he pushes the game. Yeah. So I want to see him do that for the U.S. Does that change? We see it with Brendan Aronson.
He's got some Aronson in him. Yeah.
He's got some Aronson in him where he gets it and he tries to push.
Except he can finish. He can finish too. That's the thing about Caden Clark. He can finish. He can finish balls. Like he can hit. So where's he going to set up? And if we start him or if we play him, where does he actually play? And can he make a difference? I think that he will, but I want to see how he does. Right? It's one thing to say he can do it, another thing for him to actually do it himself. Yeah.
So I want to see Caden Clark. Taylor Booth for me, playing for Bayern Munich's second team or Bayern Munich 2. I'm curious about him because he's got some right back, wing back possibilities. He can play right wing, kind of Paredes like, right?
Yeah, he's just not first team. Like he's not. Even,
I know, but I just like got it. I almost want to. I wish Joe Scally was here so we could actually see Joe Scally.
I know. Is he still playing? Jeez, man.
I don't know. Mönchengladbach's getting slapped around right now, so I don't know how that's looking for him.
Yeah.
And outside of that, then I think there's something about Jonathan Gomez I'd like to see. There's so much hype around him. And it seems like he's a unanimous choice for most people that have been watching and putting.
I'm always down to see more left backs anyway, even though I suffered with being called crap my whole life, and like the left back position is always the one everybody wants to fix. Fullback positions are they seem dime a dozen, and everybody's always looking for a better one. So I get it. So I've jumped on that train and said like let's bring in more left backs.
I wanted to be the host so I could ask you the hard questions. Now I want to name more than 3 people as well. Okay, last one, everybody. Last one, and then we're gonna go. Of this group of players, of this 26, and I gave you that prediction god status right here, Heath Pearce. Which one of these 26 do you think has the best chance of making the final 23-man roster for Qatar?
Matt Turner.
Assuming we qualify, I have to say that. You can't. No, get Matt Turner out of there.
Okay.
Or Ricardo Pepi. Like, let's take Pepi and Turner and
Zimmerman out too.
Zimmerman out. And Acosta.
and Acosta. Jeez Louise.
Okay, wait. Acosta's got to be out. So Pepi, Acosta, Zimmerman, and Turner are out. Okay, outside of those 4.
Best chance. Okay, I mean, if Jordan Morris is fit, I think he pushes for it. But I'm going to go with just more of a moonshot, if you don't mind. And I'm going to say, man.
Don't give me that Slonina as the number 3.
No. I want that so bad too.
It's an easy fallback.
Yeah, I would say of anybody here, I'm going to say the best chance is going to go to, because Cole Bassett or Jackson Ewell could get in with an injury, but
now you're trying to predict injuries.
I'm hedging.
Let us know in the chat, everybody, and then of course hit us up on Twitter at Qué Golazo Pod.
All right. I'm going to go with Jordan Morris is the easy bet, but I'm going to go with Caden Clark or Cade Cowell. Which one I'm going to go with?
Caden Clark for sure over Cade Cowell, in my humble opinion.
Okay, Caden Clark, that's the one.
Because Caden Clark's going. Well, he's going. I would probably go with Caden Clark.
Yeah, but he's
going to RB Leipzig.
You're hedging that he's going to play at RB Leipzig, though.
No, that's true. That's true. I am hedging that a little bit, and it might not happen because they've got a new coaching staff in place, right?
Yeah.
With
he's got the best pathway if all goes well to insert himself into this team.
He does, yeah. And also because there's some injury concerns for that area of the field, Gio Reyna has been getting some knocks. Christian Pulisic can't stay healthy. That could be a possibility there that gets him in there. I like the Caden Clark shout, especially compared to Cade Cowell. God, man, we're kind of thin on the left back spot. He does seem to trust George Bello a little bit, even though he's a known quantity. I'll say Aaron Long. I think Aaron Long's going to go in there.
One. Where is he at? Where? How far is he able to play?
I don't know, but I know Greg loves him, so I think he's going to bring Aaron Long no matter what.
I mean, if Aaron Long goes, Walker Zimmerman's not going to the World Cup. You don't have room for both of them, can you? And then who else is out?
Well, then you have Miles, and you have because John Anthony Brooks isn't going to the World Cup, dude.
Yeah,
not my opinion. He's not even starting for Wolfsburg anymore, and that's probably a good thing because they're getting slapped around.
No, he started last week. He's just out for one game or what?
Well, he didn't play last week, and they lost 3-1.
Yeah,
they're struggling.
Relax. Rotation.
I'm just saying.
Rotation.
I'm just saying.
No, man. Okay, yeah, that's a solid.
And then you have Chris Richards. He just scored for Hoffenheim. He's full of confidence. You could have Richards, Miles Robinson, Zimmerman, and Long. Okay, I'm just saying. I know that Greg loves Aaron Long. He's going to find a place for him.
Okay, so
there might be more than one from this list. I'm just from outside of the 4 that we've already named.
What about Austin Trusty? By the way, we haven't mentioned him.
Yeah, I don't know. I like him.
Yeah,
he might just have too much work to do to climb over some of the guys that are already established.
That's fair.
Now everybody wants to talk about John Anthony Brooks, and he should be there. We're gonna have to save that for the next U.S. Men's National Team Hour. We're calling it a show, everybody.
It's every week.
On behalf of Des Norris and Lisa Roman, our producers, and Heath Pearce, I'm Jimmy Conrad. We thank you so much for watching the show live with us on YouTube. If you want to listen to it on podcast form, follow Qué Golazo podcast. That is on all of the relative outlets that you like to hear your podcasts. That is Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. You guys know the business at this point. You're well-versed in how things work in the digital space. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next week for the U.S. Men's National Team Hour. Later.